Happy Friday, everyone. Good morning and welcome to the show. My name is Spencer Walsh. On the show today, we are talking about the investigations. One congressman described it as a 10-course meal, a possible place to investigate how the Cohen testimony opened up even more avenues for Donald Trump's investigators. At the White House, security brief issues. We're going to go behind the breakup as well at Hanoi that took place yesterday. All right. That's just about it that we have to cover today. But we start off with, of course, as I said before, these investigations. It's supposed to be what looks like pretty much a 10-course meal. That's how some people are describing it. House Democrats are following Michael Cohen's trail of breadcrumbs to widen their investigation into President Trump, his businesses, his taxes, his charity, hush money paid to a former film star, and his campaign's relationship with Russia. So that is probably... It's pretty much information overload at this point to me. His business, I think there's a lot there. His taxes, oh yeah, there's a lot there. His charity, that's obviously incredibly problematic, had to be shut down. Barbara Underwood, the Attorney General of New York, called it like shockingly illegal. And an Attorney General does not get shocked by illegality very often. And hush money paid to a former film star, that's probably a mostly explored avenue from what I can understand. And his campaign's relationship with Russia. This is probably to me, and this is why this whole investigation started, this is probably the least prosperous a path to take. I feel like businesses, taxes, that side of things, what he's done, how he's gotten his loans, I really feel like it's all interconnected, but it's just painting a picture really of Trump kind of behaving like a crime boss almost. And I think it's really clear that is where his head is at, and it's very disturbing, obviously, that he is president and has been president for so long, and pretty much the only people who've gone to jail so far were the people who have not even done any real crimes, but the people who've just been pretty much caught lying for them. So that is pretty much that's what happened. Like, anyone who's gone to jail has gone to jail for just lying about bad things they've done. They haven't actually even done anything bad, really. Like, except for when they have, it's been something always unrelated to Trump. All right, so all you have to do is follow the transcript. House Oversight Chair Elijah Cummings told reporters on Thursday, if there were names that were mentioned or records that were mentioned during the hearing, we want to take a look at that. He said a very rich table. Richard E. Connolly of Virginia said, now looking at a 10-course meal. And that's where that quote came from that I cited multiple times. Michael Cohen will return March 6th for another closed-door hearing. The House Intelligence Committee, according to Chair Adam Schiff. Schiff also announced that Felix Sater, the Russian born business associate of Trump who worked with Cohen on the Trump-Moscow deal, he'll have a lot to offer there about that in specific and just Trump's broader relationships with Russia. He's going to appear before the intelligence panel on March 14th. Cohen's testimony included cameos from a high-profile parade of Trump associates, many of whom are now likely to be called before lawmakers. And you can probably guess who the first one is going to be if you pay attention to the hearing yesterday. And yeah, you guessed it. Gave you some time to think about it, but you probably guessed it. It's Alan Weisselberg, everybody. Trump's chief financial officer, Schiff, plans to summon before the Intelligence Committee, according to the Washington Post. During the House Oversight hearing, Weisselberg's name was mentioned upwards, as we know, of 30 times. If you watch that, the chances are if you watch at least probably like 15 minutes to half an hour, you probably saw or heard at least one mention of Alan Weisselberg, the CFO of the Trump Organization. So, other people that Cohen name-checked, here's what could happen to them. Ron Lieberman, Trump's organization executive vice president of management and development. Lieberman worked for the Trump organization for a little bit more than a decade now. He previously worked for the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation, and in 2007 went on to win contracts to operate the Central Park Carousel and the Ferrie Point Golf Course in the Bronx, project he handled on behalf of the city for years for Trump, according to the New York Times. Matthew Calamari, Cohen said that Trump's bodyguard turned chief operating officer, could corroborate his allegation that Trump inflated his assets for assurance purposes. Former bodyguard's meteoric rise, wrote Trump biographer Michael D'Antonian in May 2017, was due to pretty same defining qualities: his unwavering loyalty to a man who sought those who could be trusted to put their boss first. And he was recruited in 1981 after Trump saw him eject some hecklers while working security at the United States Open tennis tournament. So, yeah, that's what he did. He pretty much was like a movie-style moment, like, damn, you're good, you're coming with me. And pretty much just picks him off the U.S. Open tennis, and on all the places, the U.S. Open tennis tournament. And we also not forget about a guy who has a name like Matthew Calamari. Like, really? I don't think we can forget about that in due conscience there. In good conscience. So, yeah, Cohen alleges that it was Trump's longtime associate and so-called Trump Tower gatekeeper, Ronna Graff, who patched Roger Stone's phone call through to Trump to notify him of the WikiLeaks plan to release already stolen emails from the DNC. Graff was interviewed by the House Intel Committee in December of 2017. Ivanka and Don Jr., he also mentioned them quite a bit. Cohen claimed that he briefed Ivanka and Don Jr. 10 times on the Trump Tower Moscow project, despite Don Jr.'s claim the Senate Judiciary Committee in 2017 that was only peripherally aware of it, according to the transcript. And if that proves to be true, then that's kind of a lie, and Don Jr. could again be busted for lying because Donald Trump Jr., not really the guy you trust to make the smartest decisions. There are some sensitivities to hauling the president's kid before Congress. Rachel and Dave of the Washington Post, that's to be precise. That is Rachel Bade of the Washington Post, to be specific. And Dave, I'm so sorry, I'm blanking on the, David Fahrenthold. Shout out David Fahrenthold. Pulitzer Prize winning reporter right there. Yeah, so there's little problems, though, they found about hauling the president's kids out before Congress, saying, I think it's just a sense of decency that you don't do it unless you really have to. We're not out to cause family problems, said Stephen Lynch of Massachusetts, but if we have to get the information, we have to get it, and he's absolutely right. And that's kind of a situation that you're going to really have to be willing to take. You're going to have to be willing to say, okay, you know what, when we want this information, it's not about just making sure and treating Trump with kid gloves. No. And if it was a Democratic president or Republicans in charge of oversight, then, well, you know what would happen. There'd be no holds barred. Cohen provided more clues in terms of what he could and could not answer. Interestingly enough, asked by Representative Raja Krishnamurthy of Illinois, if there was any other wrongdoing or legal act you're aware of regarding Donald Trump that we haven't yet discussed today, Cohen replied that there was. Yes, and again, those are part of the investigation that's currently being looked at by the Southern District of New York. Cohen said, before adding that he's in constant contact with the investigation in SDNY. So that is something to keep in your back pocket about a possible another thing we don't even know about yet that Trump did wrong that could be either brand new or connected to some of those things that I mentioned at the top of the show, with his businesses, his taxes, payments to the porn stars, interference with Russia, and all that stuff. All right. Now we turn to the man himself. What's going on in the White House? President Trump ordered his chief of staff to grant his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, also senior advisor, good stuff, a top secret security clearance last year, overruling concerns flagged by intelligence officials and the White House's top lawyer. So this is, again, these are not people who are like partisan people. They are partisan people, but they're on his side here, and they're saying Jared Kushner should not have a security clearance. This is a report from Maggie Haberman, Michael Schmidt, Adam Goldman, and Annie Carney. 4 people were briefed on the matter and talked to them about it. So the key quote here is that Trump's decision in May so troubled senior administration officials that at least one, the White House chief of staff at the time, John F. Kelly, wrote a contemporaneous internal memo about how he had been ordered to give Kushner the top secret clearance. The White House counsel at the time, Don McGahn, also wrote an internal memo outlining the concerns he had raised about about Kushner, including by the CIA, and how Mr. McGahn had recommended that he not be given a top secret clearance. And obviously, what do you want to do? It is that, he is supposedly a senior advisor, so, it would kind of handicap him to have a senior clearance. But there is obviously the very legitimate question. I think the answer to this is yes, about should he have a job if he can't even get a top secret security clearance. And I think that's something that definitely needs to be addressed. And obviously, when I said yes, I meant no. I think that question threw out very well in my head. But pretty much the answer is no, you should not have that, especially if we've seen time and time again that MBS thinks that he has Jared Kushner in his pocket. That, and I think he's met with other leaders. He's established cozy ties. He has close ties to another real estate business and all that stuff. Just the reporting, the very credible reporting that I saw, that MBS was bragging about how he had Kushner in his pocket, and Kushner served as PR agent to Mohammed bin Salman after the Khashoggi blow-up, the Khashoggi incident. But still, it is incredible still that this guy continues to have a top secret security clearance. Kelly's memo contradicts a number of statements made by the president and his daughter Ivanka. Disclosure of the memos contradicts statements made by the president, and he said to the New York Times that he had no role in his son-in-law receiving his clearance. How else would he get the clearance? It's not that simple. It is that simple. How else would he get the clearance if no one else wanted him to get it? What's the one person that obviously can overrule it? It's Trump, obviously. It's I think if we are now continuing to get a clear picture on this, and then Trump's obviously the only guy who can stop him, but it's good to know that a lot of people actually stood up to him on this front and said, no, he should not get access to our country's most top secret information. So that is at least assuring, and that could be, again, another avenue for more investigations into Trump and co. So that is very, very reassuring. Kushner met, again, with, as I met, this is what I'm talking about here. Kushner met with Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman earlier this week in Saudi Arabia for the first time since the killing of Post-contributing columnist Jamal Khashoggi in October 2018. Kushner is expected to discuss the administration's peace plan that he described as very detailed, very in-depth. Okay, I'm sure that's what they're discussing. Very detailed, very in-depth. What I'm not sure was about Middle East peace. That is for sure. All right. Now we're going to take an even broader look at the globe at the moment, zooming in focus on Hanoi, Vietnam, where Trump and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un offered slightly differing accounts about why the talks collapsed between the leaders in Hanoi. Philip Rucker, Simon Denier, and David Nakamura of the Washington Post are reporting that Trump said the main impediment to a deal was Kim's requirement, as we talked about yesterday, for the United States to lift all economic sanctions on North Korea in exchange for the closure of only one nuclear facility, which would have left Pyongyang with still a large arsenal of missile and warheads. But the North Korean account differed. Hours later, North Korea's Foreign Minister Ri Yong-ho offered a slightly different take at a rare news conference, arguing that Kim's regime only sought partial sanctions relief in return for dismantling the North's main enrichment capabilities for the fissile missile, fissile material. Sorry, that means a fission reaction missile. That they just wanted to the material that you can use to make that they wanted dismantled. The outcome was seemingly inevitable, according to reporting by Washington Post, John Hodson, Annie Guerin, and Simon Denier, and shows the limits of Trump's flattery and off-the-cuff strategy when it comes to the negotiating table. So some of what went down there is Scott Snyder, North Korean expert at the Council of Foreign Relations, told the Post that I think was a failure. The failure was an admission of a need for more time and a working level talks to achieve an agreement. It lets the North Koreans know that the symmetry has to be accompanied by a process, and that an end run around working level talks won't really yield results. And that's the important thing. The way normally these talks work is there are months and months of talks